Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Let Me Interrupt, a woman's perspective in today's workplace. Cindy and I are joined tonight by a phenomenal guest. Very excited to have her here. So I'd like to kick off this evening with an introduction of Kristina Jordan. Kristina holds a Bachelor's of Arts in Interdisciplinary Communication Studies from Elmhurst University and a Master of Science in Homeland Security from Wilmington University. Currently, Kristina is also the Doctoral of Business Administration Studies at Wilmington University and is on her way to completing her doctorate within business administration. She is a lifelong learner, similar to both Cindy and I. She's got 13 dedicated years in the military and still going strong. Currently, Kristina serves as a captain with experience in recruiting, retention, contracting, and serves as a resource for a battalion size of over 350 personnel. As a commissioned Army officer, Kristina excels at leading while balancing requirements, assessing and mitigating risk, and accomplishing mission with prioritizing the greatest military asset, the people. Kristina, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Cindy, for having me.
Welcome.
I think the best way to kick this off is, having you tell us a little bit about yourself. And I know Melissa covered all of your accolades, but just tell us a little bit about who Kristina is.
Sure. So I am actually from Lithuania. So I'm sure you can hear the accent. I moved to the United States in December of 2000. I moved to Chicago originally. I grew up at a place called Mercy Home for Boys and Girls. So I attribute a lot of my resilience and success and drive to the group home because I really had amazing social workers who just poured in love and inspiration into me. And I don't know. And then I just joined the military, went to college, and just kind of kept going.
Your experience is very impressive, and we're really glad to have you here. So you kind of shared your background with Cindy and I, and kind of how you ended up heading into the military. Can you talk to us about maybe professional goals that you have for yourself over the next 3 to 5 years? I know you've got a couple more years in your doctoral program, but what does that look like post-school for you?
So I think I would like to teach because we're now moving to Washington State. I'm going to switch from active duty, transition into National Guard. So essentially, I will have to find some sort of employment. I just started applying to just things I already know, like government jobs, finance and contracting, at least until I graduate in 2025. And then, I would like to do something that matters. I would like to go somewhere where I'm needed and I can actually really contribute. But like I said, it's just hopes and prayers. But at this point, I just want to be happy. I want to contribute and, do something more meaningful in my life.
13 years, you have been contributing, for our country and keeping us all safe, thinking about what your career has been the past 13 years, can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like? Just to give you a perspective, like when I think about military, I always just think about the recruiters and the wars on TV. And other than that, blank slate.
Yeah. So, it's funny because I was going to tell you that the first thing I was going to tell you is it's not what you see on TV. Hollywood likes to paint us in this, you're always fighting wars and doing this meaningful work. And, when you see commercials, military grade, you're like, what? But for those of us who have been in for a while, military is not for everyone. That's for sure. It's not an easy pathway it's not an easy lifestyle, and part of the lifestyle is having to separate from your family when you deploy. That's very difficult. Some marriages, some families don't make it. My marriage didn't last over the deployment. It was very tough. But I would say that, and people always thank you for your service. And sometimes you feel like you don't deserve it because oftentimes I do feel like a secretary in uniform. Even being a captain, I've had some amazing assignments where I worked for amazing leaders who, they were just outstanding. They were transformational. They focused on making me better, growing me, taking interest in my personal life, making sure I have work balance. And I worked for some leaders who were just extremely toxic, who kiss up, kick down. And as long as they have somebody who's a workhorse like me, who's going to make them look good. That's all that matters. And all while the same, I get paid the same. So I think for me, I work hard no matter what, because it's just who I am. It makes me feel good, regardless of who I work for. But in the military, our leaders change every 2 years. So even if you get a bad one, you just have to survive them. And, that's the sad reality. And I would say I'm 36 now, but I have, and I have a certain, skill set at this point, and I kind of know how to deal with certain situations. But when I started, I wish I would have known then what I know now, because I did endure, certain things, terrible things that you do see on TV, sexual harassment, just inappropriate behavior. And when you work within a rank structure, you don't know how to repel that and push back on that in a way that's going to still propel your own career. So, like I said, my career has been filled of ups and downs, and it's certainly been filled with amazing experiences as well, because the military is an extension of a family. And I think partially that's why I joined, because the group home was kind of a big family when you don't have a close family, but military does the same. You just have this camaraderie and people truly care about each other. And that's, looking back on the 13 years, I can say I've met so many amazing people that touched my life.
So I want to circle back on something that you shared. So first of all, the kiss up, kick down, is that the expression? I've never heard that expression,
Yeah, the
but I like
expression
it.
is, yeah, it's called, it's certain people kiss up and kick down. So they kiss up on the higher ranks, but they kick down those who work underneath them.
Circle back on one thing that you touched on. I think for me, when I see folks in the military, whether it's older veterans who have their World War hats on, or,
Mhm.
you know, Veterans Day or a military affiliated holiday, I'm very
Mhm.
in tune with, thanking a service member if I see
Yeah.
one. But I'd be curious to know, like, from a perspective of being a woman, what do you feel like you gave up in order to make sure that you were successful within your career?
Um, you do give up a lot of, I think, freedom to speak your mind. You do. You have to. Now that I'm older, and like I said, I continue to get my civilian education. That way I had some sort of insurance backing if this didn't work out. And, with each experience you go through, and if it's a terrible one, it does harden you and makes you stronger, and also gives you more tools. So next time you're stronger and better. And the Army does have, proper protocols and procedures of how to address certain things. But in the end, people are people. There's human nature, and it always wins. If you even approach those protocols and file a complaint against somebody, you still work in the same organization. It's going to backfire. It's going to affect you. So for that reason, people, I think, abstain from filing and go into those proper procedures. But for me, I don't know. I think I do have a mouth on me. People know that, and I think I've been very lucky with my assignments, and I have gotten a lot of tough assignments where I think I knew that leadership used me for that reason. They're like, "Oh, she's a pit bull, send her in." But also, when the pit bull goes off the leash and does the job that they wanted you to do, they can also say, "Well, that's just her. That's not me. I'm not taking responsibility for that." So, like I said, you have to be ready to be used. And I think I learned that, and even knowing that once the retirement day comes, we have a couple of people retiring in my office. Once that retirement day comes, the Army moves on, because the Army is almost like a breathing, living thing. It moves on without you. So you pour your heart and soul in it. Next day, somebody else is at your desk, because every single person is replaceable. And I kind of learned that. I kind of approach myself that way, honesty, because I can't afford to lie. I don't have to. There's no time to do it. And if the truth hurts too much, then I don't know why I'm here.
No, that's a great take. I think, hearing about being honest in your place and that
Yeah.
being kind of a saving grace. What, I don't want to single out any specific cases, but there have been some where someone does seek out, those
Mhm.
protocols and there is retaliation. And how did you kind of stay afloat in that situation when you did have those really hard
You
leaders?
know, I remember when I was just a lieutenant. So 2005, I'm sorry, 2015. This was 2015. I had recently gotten a new job. I didn't want to leave the job, and somebody was really just behaving inappropriately. And at one point, he even I started talking to my friends. I started reaching out to my former commander. I said, what should I do? And he said, oh, just keep your mouth shut. Our organization is too small. But I guess the guy who was behaving a certain way, and he was powerful, he was the boss's boss's boss. He confronted me and he said, oh, what did I do? Did I ask you to meet me at a hotel? Did I ask you to take your clothes off? No. And that shook me. I was young. I was, and from that I was scared. And I just didn't have the tools. But those experiences that I remember, because they took away from who I was. They took away some of my innocence. They made me harder, and you're not taught that. In officer school, you're taught all these leadership lessons, but they don't teach you how to approach these type of situations. And I didn't do anything. I essentially didn't cause any waves. The person ended up pushed out. They asked him to retire. They did not re-extend him. But even after that happened, a couple other leaders asked me to go forward. And this was years after. They said it was really hard for us to watch the things that were happening to you. Everyone in that room outranked me. And they said it was hard for us to watch that. And I said, hold up a second. I'm the lowest ranking in here. You're all males. You all outrank me. You did nothing. And you felt uncomfortable. Imagine how I felt. Imagine what it was like being me. And, and I still respect these three leaders. I still care about them. But I went through some terrible times. And like I said, at the time I couldn't tell my husband, my ex-husband, because I asked him, what would he do if I told him something was happening? And he's like, oh, just go to jail. So then I had to keep all that to myself. And I know there are women who go through way worse, it's, and sometimes, like I said, when you guys thank people for their service, I think that's what you thank them for enduring and surviving some of the, terrible things they go through. Because a lot of times, like I said earlier, sometimes I feel like just a secretary in uniform, because you're just grinding, working your ass off. Sorry, you're probably not supposed to swear in here.
You're fine. You can say whatever.
You're working so hard, and it's still a sacrifice, but I think you said, when people thank me for my service, I feel like they're thanking me for surviving those times, those like just terrible times when I had to keep going. And, I don't know. And people know the things I've gone through. People know I didn't complain. And it's not just men. I will say that. Like I've had a couple of female leaders who were very disappointing. The only two female leaders, both competent in their own way. But, we always talk about women pushing up women supporting women. I haven't seen that. I still have yet to see that in the military. Maybe it's because the pyramid gets so tight that women cut down each other so much, but it was not a good experience. And I've seen one of my mentors, she was so hard on me. She fired people left and right, and I would absorb their duties. And at one point I was working just nonstop. I was in the office, till 8 o'clock or so. And then I would work the weekends as well, because she fired so many people. And then somebody else asked me to manage another department's budget, because we just don't develop enough people to manage finance. So at that point, like I said, I wasn't getting paid more money. I wasn't getting any accolades, and I did not get any recognition for that. And then I look back now, she's got this male working for him, and he barely does a third of what I did, but he's just getting promoted and all these accolades. And I was like, wow. And that hurts me. I take that personally, because at the end of the day, like, I'm a female, and and another female should identify with that. So I don't know, like I said, but I did have, I don't want to be doom and gloom. I did have some amazing mentors who taught me left and right and treated me like, I don't know, their daughter maybe, or, yeah, but.
Some initial thoughts, Kristina. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I would have the strength and the grit to get through what you've gone through over these years. I don't think, I think they would have sent me home the bus from basic training. They probably would have said, you are not cut from the cloth that you need to be cut from, as far as this is concerned. But I think that, in just talking with you for the past 20 minutes and learning more about what you've endured, I don't really feel like my thank you to a service member is adequate. Like you've been through a lot.
Yeah. Basic training is not that bad. Basic training is actually a lot of fun because in basic training, you're just joining, you're fresh, you don't know what to expect, and it sucks. But it sucks together with everybody. So everyone just bonds real close and kind of like even going through, this class, we have a lot of homework. It's an intense class. And when it's a lot of pressure, you bond over that pressure. But like I said, it's interesting. Yeah, military can be a lot of fun. You get a lot of inside jokes. You certainly develop a sense of humor if you didn't have one before.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate this perspective. Like you said, I'm just being gloomy about it, doom and gloom, but like that's not what we see, right?
Yeah.
Like that is suppressed through the main media channels, until something horrible happens, until
Yeah.
somebody dies or whatever the case, then the alarm is raised and oh, look at this. And there's some problems in the military. And
Mhm.
a couple months later, it goes back, right? It goes
Yeah.
back to being.
Because you can't complain, right? When you're in uniform, there's certain expectation that you don't hurt, certain expectation that you're always strong and you're always happy. And also when you wear the uniform, the American people entrust their, faith in you, their trust in you. So you have to represent yourself a certain way. And, you have to maintain that perception. You have to maintain that strength. There's a reason why, when we're outside, we can't do certain things. We can't, you can never be caught with a cigarette, or you shouldn't walk and talk on the cell phone. You can't have your hands in your pockets. You have to be professional. So we have to maintain some sort of perception so that, because American people deserve that. They deserve the best. And, we need them to feel, confident in us. So for that reason, you don't see that. But like I said, there is another flip coin. And I think people who work either with veterans or even Veterans Affairs understand that. Even now, I just started going to the doctor, because when you're in the military, like I said, if you go to the doctor during the day or, PT, oh, you piece of shit, how dare you leave your, office desk? And that's how it is. There's that stigma of you going to the doctor. And so for that reason, a lot of times people start going to the doctor before they get out so they can actually get annotated the things that are wrong with them. And we're just broken, they told me my neck needs to be fused. I was like, what? And they're like, you have degeneration. So I went all these years and I knew my neck was hurting, but I thought that's just how it should feel. But like I said, before I get out, I'm getting it annotated that way. It's in my file. So if things go wrong, I can go to the VA. But like I said, there is that pressure of the uniform that you should appear strong. You should be strong. And if you're not being strong, then you should feel maybe ashamed. And, you see that you do hear about mental health push, right? So yeah, I think it's getting better. I will say that military always follows society, with I think 2012, Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed. So that was a huge shift for the military. It's become more open-minded. It's become more flexible, and things like that, things that occur in a society, military will always follow. It has to. And it's gotten better. I think it's become more open-minded.
Can you talk to us about ample opportunities within either for yourself or that you recognize that are available for women who elect to start a family while they're actively enlisted, or get married, or get divorced, or any type of opportunities that you would see that would impact women?
For me, I kept putting on having a family because I was getting these great assignments. To be selected to be a commander is a huge honor, but it's also a lot of work. And at the time, my ex-husband said, we shouldn't do this now. We shouldn't start a family. So I kept holding off. Then I got another great assignment. I said, okay, I'll put this on hold. And then, we started trying and I was not able to, I was running into fertility issues. So I think, I don't want to say, I don't want to say you have to choose, because I've seen women who, there was another lieutenant colonel who retired recently. She was very hardcore, just always, real strict, real, ball buster, like, high speed. And then she had a family, and then her focus shifted completely. She became nicer to others, more understanding, really focused on her family. And military it's really good pay. Great benefits, great pay. So you can have a very good life in the military, especially if you have family, especially on certain bases. I can't say that military prevents you from having a family. I think it's a personal choice. But in my own personal case, I think I put my career before myself, certainly, and before my family and having a family. You know, I regret that now. And, that made me a better leader. When I talk to my soldiers now, I always tell them, like, your work is always going to be here. It's going to be here tomorrow and day after. But your family, you need to focus on.
I can already see, I mean, just hearing how passionate you are about the work that you have done and being excited about assignments and just hearing you talk about, the representation of the uniform. I can totally see being in that situation, how difficult it would be. Like it is almost like you have to choose, right?
Yeah.
'Cause even now, I work from home, right? So I don't do anything amazing. Like,
Oh, come
but
on.
even then, like there are times where I couldn't even see myself going back into the office because my son, like I like want to start crying just thinking about like not being with him.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that's such a difficult, like, I mean, you probably have some type of remote type of option, but you probably have to be in your military base. You probably have to be
I
in
did not actually. It's funny you say that. During COVID, that's when I was working for that tough female leader. She was totally against it. She wanted to watch us work. She wanted us to see it. So we didn't get to telework at all. And then our hire said, no, people need to telework. So we got to like switch off. And, a couple of days a week, I got to telework. And yes, I was wearing my uniform top, but on the bottom was PJs. Yeah, I was like, yes, this is the best. Yeah, I loved it. But I think your military career probably depends on who you work for. Your immediate supervisor has a tremendous impact on you and your family. That one female I worked for, I remember one of my counterparts, he had to leave a couple times. He had two young ones, kids, and his wife was a teacher. So one time his daughter got sick and he had to go home. And another time something else happened, he had to go home. And she was just not happy. I want to review his family care plan. We have family care plans. It's essentially it says who's going to take care of the kids or what are you going to do? How are you going to mitigate essentially you having to leave work? Who's going to take care of your kids? So yeah, she was not flexible. She always had a problem with him leaving work because he had two kids. She doesn't have any kids. So, yeah. So like I said, it really depends who you work for. And I've been lucky to work for some amazing people and some not so amazing people. But you always know you're like, 2 years and they'll be out.
I mean, that's a great pivot too into, from your 13 years, from all of the experiences that you've had and the insight, what would you say to leaders that are recently moving up into a leadership role or have been in that role and maybe haven't really looked in the mirror?
I truly do not believe that giving a piece of advice to somebody is going to really change them. I think they have to encounter something in their life or learn it the hard way, because the way you become self-aware is by somebody assessing you. Like if you, Cindy, and you, Melissa, told me, if you looked at me and said, Kristina, you're kind of an asshole, I would have to take that seriously, because guess what? Two people are assessing me and they're telling me who I am. And that's criticism and I should act on it. But certain leaders just, I think they become so cold and hard that other people stop telling them the truth of how they see them. And when that happens, their head continues to grow and they go down this path. But I think when leaders become like that, it's almost like consequences are going to compound in the end, because you can only go so far being super toxic. And I think I think life happens. If you believe in God, I believe in God. I think that, or karma, I think something happens and they pay for it somehow. I have to believe that, because some of the people I work for, I hope they have something coming. Otherwise, I don't know. I don't know what I would tell them. I would just tell them, at the end of the day, army is a lifestyle, but at the same time, it's also just a job. Family is the most important thing in life. And, that's where I'm headed. I'm trying to have a family. I'm on this new journey, because otherwise it's just going to restaurants and eating.
So, a couple takeaways here. I would definitely elect for you to be by my side in a boardroom because you are that pit bull. And you're definitely like, I could see you being like the goose to my maverick kind of situation. Like you are just, I really just I'm really enjoying this conversation. I'm curious to ask, how do you as a woman lead or bring up other women through the ranks, whether it's, professionally or even personally?
So, women who are certain women immediately have that kind of not a wall, but a bit of a standoffish like wall around themselves already. Like, you're my competition. I don't want to deal with it. So those women, I just kind of leave alone. I don't go out of my way, but if I'm approached, I definitely I'm definitely girl's girl. I try to always kind of keep that in mind. And it is tougher for women. It is tougher to get ahead for as a woman, I think. Um, but also my circle currently is, females like me, just kind of crushing it, trying to earn their way up through merit and hard work, you know. And I have seen, if it's a soldier, if it's an enlisted soldier, not an officer, I definitely take them under my wing. I pay a little more attention, I would say, especially when it comes to safety and especially when we're different on the different base. I want to make sure the females are safe.
So, in our studies, in our shared studies, Christina, we've been focusing a lot about like tuning in and finding our leadership style, whether
Mhm.
that's transactional leadership or servant leadership. We've all identified with a leadership style. What is your leadership style?
So during the course, I focus on the transformational portion, but I think mine is servant, maybe combined with a little bit transformational, because I do want people to find gratitude. Even if they're having the worst day, I want them to feel grateful. Because I always tell them, like, well, at least you're not in Lithuania barefoot cooking, hot dogs for your husband while you have no teeth and you're pregnant again. Because, I feel like that's where I come from. I come from Lithuania. It's a third world country, and it can get better than being in America. So even being here, you already are, 100 steps ahead of where people are back there. So I use humor a lot, but I do get to know people because I want to look who's behind the uniform. I don't want to just see a number. I want to know who that person is, what they want in life, what are their goals, and that's how I approach leading.
No, that's amazing, and I love that, bringing other people up and looking at them as people, not just,
Yeah.
soldiers or employees or the person, seeing the person behind the uniform. As we kind of start to kind of wrap up our conversation, I wanted to talk a little bit about what were, you said this earlier, but what are some of the things that when you think to when you first joined and started your journey, boot
Mhm.
camp, what would you have told yourself then, either about, your personal life or career life? What would have been some real conversations that you would have had with yourself?
You know, uh, I have thought of this 1,000 times already. Like, would I have joined if I would have known what it was going to be like? And I don't know if I would have. I think I would have done something easier, something different. I don't, because if I look back now, sometimes I feel like, did I really just do this for a paycheck? Like, why did I? Um, my best time was the time when I was a commander at the 1049th Transportation Company. It was just, I love those soldiers. When you become that commander, that's my greatest probably highlight of my career. That time I would not trade for anything. So I probably would join just for that. But, I would tell myself to, I don't know. I can't even say that. I was going to say keep my mouth shut and not be so loud, but no, I can't. When I see something wrong, I have to like verbalize it. I have to call it out because I think that's what makes me me, even if I have to pay for it in the end. Um, so I honestly don't know. That's a really good question. Maybe taken some training. Maybe I should have taken some training of how to like repel men when men who outrank you. What do you say to them? Call their wives. I don't know. I don't know.
So,
Yeah.
Christina, are you excited about reintegrating into civilian life when that day comes?
Yes, and I'm scared. I definitely have uh anxieties. They're, I'm still, I told myself I don't have to stress out to like, I don't know, January 27th. But yeah, I'm starting to feel the stress. I'm like, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? You know, because I want to work again. But like I said, I saved enough where I could kind of take off a couple of years, but I want to do something. I want to help. I want to like contribute somehow in a big way. So,
Well, I can tell you right now, I have not a doubt in the world that you're going to contribute and you're going to do really badass things. And I have the pleasure of getting to know you over the next few years within your cohort, and I can speak firsthand, just blown away by your professionalism, your realness, and just really happy to call you friend. So I really appreciate the opportunity. So we always open the floor at the very end to give our
mhm.
guest to just speak freely. Anything that you would like to offer to anyone listening who might be contemplating going into the military or might, and they're like, man, that really resonates with me. Anything, any takeaways that you'd like to offer anyone listening?
Yeah, if anyone wants to join the military, I would say join the Air Force, not the Army. They deploy way shorter, very professional. I would definitely say that. Plus, their physical fitness test is way better than ours. We just rolled out this crazy one, but yeah, like I said, military is a personal choice. It's wouldn't push anyone into it, but great benefits. You know, it can pay for the military is basically the GI Bill is paying for my doctorate, so it's gotten me a lot. And, like I said, it paid for my LASIK. I got LASIK through the Army. It's probably the best thing they've done for me. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else. I just thank you for having me. I didn't realize I was going to talk this much.
No, this is great. And like I said, I had a chance to talk to Cindy today. And I said, wait till you meet her. She's just so real. She's just really going to offer really great, just unedited conversation. So glad that you were able to join us. Well, Captain Jordan, we thank you for your time. We thank you for your dedicated service to the country, and protecting our freedoms. And you've given me a new perspective when I do get to see people in uniform. But we really do appreciate you giving of your time this evening with us. And Cindy, any takeaways?
So many. I mean, so many. No, I think, I loved your perspective, and it really just gave me, like you said, a view into the other side of the coin. I think there's a lot that you touched on that we could have a whole episode focused on, because there's just that much in you really can't encapsulate 13 years of experience in 30 minutes. So if you are ever up to it again, we'd love to just dive in even deeper. But I want to say thank you for the conversation, for the candid conversation, and I'm just wishing you the best in your retirement, and hopefully we'll get to speak again, and our listeners will get to hear from you again
Oh,
soon.
sure. Thank you, ladies, for having me. It was a pleasure. Appreciate it.
All right, Captain Jordan, thank you again for your time. We appreciate you joining us here on Let Me Interrupt. Well, as always, Cindy, this was great. Great conversation. We hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, we'll see you on the next episode.